So, on my great quest of reviewing indie games, I've recently been presented with one such game that has had me hooked for the past week. I acquired it by unconventional means, a back of the tavern deal, if you will, and let me tell you, this is some good stuff. A perfect blend of the finest roguelikes and roguelites, captured in a very appealing, Hades-like style, finished with a little sprinkling of folklore that hits quite close to home, and it's co-op. What is it called, I hear you ask? The name is Sworn, because you will have sworn to yourself that it will just be one more run before bed. Now, before we get into it, I'd like to give a huge thanks to Team 17, the publishers of Sworn, for sponsoring this video. It is a pleasure to have you as the first ever sponsor on this channel. I would also like to point out that the version of the game I play in this video is an early access build, so it is bigger in scope to the currently available demo. So some aspects of the game I mention or show may not be there yet. But if you like what you see and want to taste, I strongly recommend that you check out the game with my link below. Now though, without further ado, let's embark on our first quest. King Arthur is corrupted, along with his knights at the round table, and you must be the one to bring him to his knees. Unfortunately, you aren't exactly the strongest in these lands, and you have a long way to go, so let's give you some training about that sword of yours. You start the game as the Vigilante, a well-rounded class with little flair, but with decent mobility and attack speed still make him a choice pick. Now, combat is very simple. You and all classes have a light attack and a heavy attack. Pretty self-explanatory: light, fast, low damage, heavy, slow, big damage. You also have a dodge. Again, pretty easy to get the hang of. If you see this guy walking towards you with a 2-ton piece of stone, you want to make sure not to leave your fragile body underneath it. What sets you and each class apart, however, are your unique spells. These are your abilities, and for Vigilante range from a sword dash, useful for both damage and mobility, to throwing a plethora of knives at your enemies and turning them into pincushions. Now, this is all well and good. Like I said, Vigilante is a good pick, but if you're looking for something a bit more unique, or more to your tastes, then let me introduce the rest of the crew. The next character you'll unlock is Rook, your walking fortress of a tank in this game. To sum them up, big health, big damage, but needs to work on their cardio. Their spells include Bull Rush, a good choice to give yourself some extra mobility, and a parry that can completely negate an attack while also dealing damage back to the enemy. Next up is Spectre, the mage of the group. They lack a bit on health, but make up for it in DPS. The only spell I had for them at the time was the Mystic Beam, although after using it for quite a bit, I don't know if I'd actually switch because this thing shreds if you upgrade it right. Lastly, there's Monk, a sort of middle ground between Spectre and Vigilante, with good mobility and attack speed, but also has some decent range. Again, I only have one spell for her, Stormcore, but it is a force to be reckoned with. Now, your weapons, as they are, will suffice, for the first few rooms at least, but you aren't going anywhere without some help from the Divines. Fae, as they're called here. They will enhance you and your weapons with their unique properties for that run, turning you into a walking god amongst goblins. They come in a variety of flavours, providing you with temporary upgrades to your light, heavy, spell attacks and dodge, as well as offering unique companions to fight by your side. Now, I won't get into the details about what each and every Fae offers you, as there are currently over 200 blessings you can receive from these guys. But some notable ones that are my personal favourites, which I'll mention again later, are Babbed, offering damage boosts on backstab, Gogmagog, yes, that is his name, offering the ability to stun enemies with your attacks, and Mab, giving you some juicy damage over time with her venom. That being said, all the Fae offer very good upgrades, and you best believe you can synergize multiple blessings for enhanced effects. Another temporary upgrade worth mentioning are the Sword in the Stone buffs. You find them, just like blessings, as rewards for clearing a room, but they spice up your weapons differently, changing how the attack works, similar to the permanent weapon upgrades, which I'll get to later. Some notable ones I used were the Hurricane upgrade for Vigilante, allowing his heavy attack to fire rotating blades, giving his sword some good range, and Life Drain for Spectre's Mystic Beam, allowing you to heal from hitting enemies, but at the cost of lowered max HP. At this point, you are probably starting to absolutely blitz through rooms, and you've probably collected a fair few resources along the way, so I think it's best I give you the rundown of each one and how best to spend them. First, how do you even get those shiny trinkets? Well, each room you clear will have a different reward, whether that be a blessing, weapon upgrade, or a resource reward. The most common of which are crystal shards and grail water, so let's start with those. Crystal shards are used to unlock new nodes on the skill trees, found at the source back in the tower. The skill trees themselves are not all unlocked by default, and you'll have to go out and slay several members of the round table to unlock them all. But in my opinion, the two most important ones when starting out are the life tree, the one you start with, and the treasure tree. They offer you permanent ways of boosting health and the chance of getting more crystal shards and other resources, among other upgrades. Grail water currently is only used to unlock new characters and the items for those characters, so new spells and weapons. However, this resource has another use which I'll get to in a moment. Now, the two rarer resources you can find are Fairy Embers and Obsidian. Fairy Embers allow you to upgrade the weapons for each class once you find Nimue about your travels. Said upgrades will increase the weapon's damage and enhance your attacks, with some upgrades changing how an attack works entirely. However, these upgrades are not unlocked with Fairy Embers, but instead with emeralds, which I'll get to in a second. Obsidian is used to purchase new stations for your tower and points of interest throughout Avalon, once you find Guinevere. Some notable ones are the bounty board, allowing you to get bonuses for completing achievements, and the currency exchange, allowing you to convert one material into another. More on this in a second. The last two materials are the rarest and are only obtained after defeating members of the round table after you unlock the skill trees. These are Moonstones and Emeralds. Moonstones are used to unlock special nodes on the skill trees, and Emeralds, like I mentioned, are used to change the attacks of your weapons. Now, something that I wish I'd done sooner is saving up and buying the currency exchange as soon as possible. You'll quickly work up quite a lot of grail water, as it isn't used for much and the things it is used for are quite cheap. So, what you can do is take your sizable stack of water and turn it into fairy embers. Now, here there's a bit of a chain. You can turn those embers into moonstones, the moonstones into emeralds, and those emeralds into crystal shards. From just one resource that quickly becomes obsolete, you can top up the others to actually spend on upgrades. Now, I've pretty much covered everything you need to know to get started, and have a good start at that. But to finish off, I'll show you a few of my favourite mechanics, blessings, and anything else I think is notable. My choice picks, if you will. First up, class. They're all great, but the two I find myself enjoying the most are Spectre and Vigilante, purely due to the amount of DPS you can get cooking with these two. But at the end of the day, all the classes are viable. Second is the Stagger mechanic, obtained from Gogmagog. This is particularly nice to have when you're starting out, as it works on both enemies and bosses, and is easy to apply. Once you get the stagger bar full, the boss is stunned in place for a short period, allowing you to easily get some hits in, or if you have an ultimate that is hard to aim, stunning the big guy helps a bunch. Now, it's not the most optimal in terms of damage if you're playing solo. However, like I said at the start, this game is co-op, so having someone on the team with stagger could be very strong. Another blessing that I liked was Mab's Venom. Having damage over time is very nice, especially if you're playing Rook, but pairing it with Spectre's light attack and giving enemies full stacks of Venom in 2 to 3 hits is incredibly satisfying and effective. Lastly, I'll mention the skill trees once again, notably the ones that I think are most important when starting out. Those being, like I said, the life tree and the treasure tree. Healing can be hard to come by without these passives, so investing in this tree can help you out loads. And you will need quite a lot of crystal shards to flesh out said trees, so that's where the treasure one comes in, give you higher chances to find those and other resources. But once you get to a good level in those, branching out and investing in the other trees for damage, extra gold and better blessings is recommended. All in all, Sworn is a very well crafted roguelike. It rewards creativity and gives you lots of freedom to experiment. It has a clear inspiration from Hades and doesn't hide it, but if you know anything about that game, you'll know that this is very much a good thing. Now, I personally didn't run into any bugs or issues, however, I don't know what the public demo is like at the time of recording, but from what I played, everything was pretty flawless. Everything also felt very balanced, polished, and all round fun to play, and I look forward to its release, as well as getting to play it co-op, which I think will be incredibly fun. Again, if this looks like something you would enjoy, I highly recommend you give the demo a try with my link below. The game has been amazing so far. Thanks again to Team 17 for sponsoring this video, and for letting me play Sworn ahead of release, and thank you all for watching. And as always, more content to come. With that, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.